Hey everyone, and welcome back to Vortex Garage and yet another tool review. Now, in case this is the first one that you're seeing, something we try to mention on every review, unless we note otherwise, the tools that we're reviewing here are things that we've either personally purchased or someone that we know has gotten us as a gift. So that's unique because these are not manufacturer provided tools unless we do mention and receive any, we'll tell you. But as that's not the case, these are tools that we've actually used on jobs, used on videos, and in many cases had for several years. So we think that's unique that we're giving you a real good, honest opinion of how these tools have held up in our use. So today we're going to talk a little bit about this. This is from Calvan Tools, and this is one of many that you can kind of pick up. So there's other ones out there, but it's an inner tie rod tool. Now this is one of these kind of special tools that as you get more and more working on stuff or you have a job that comes in that needs it, you're going to have to pick up something like this. Now we do have another inner tie rod set tool where it's a long rod that uses a ratchet and has different connectors, but this is kind of like a universal fit one. And these are actually a good cheap alternative to those more expensive kits. And in some cases, these are actually more handy because some inner tie rods have a hex head on them that you can use those kits on, but some of them are actually smooth and round and you need something like this to get them off. If you don't know what I'm talking about, an inner tie rod is the piece of a steering rack that comes off, and it actually screws into the end of the steering rack, and then the outer tie rod joint that goes to the suspension ties to that. And it's got a little ball joint on the end, and then the rod hangs off of it. I don't think I have one here to show you. If I did, I'd pull it out. But to get those off, you have to get back in there, usually pretty deep into the wheel well, put a tool around to grab the end of that near the end of the steering rack and pinion and turn it loose. So, and that's exactly what this tool does. Although you'll probably look at it and it looks like an exhaust clamp, this is actually for removing an inner tie rod. So we can take it out of the package here and kind of show you what we got. So essentially, what you get is an adjustable piece, and you would take the bolts off here. Hopefully I don't drop them. Separate it out, put this over the inner tie rod, put this piece on, thread your nuts back on the bolts on this big U-bolt. And then you would tighten this down either side until you got this nice and snug on that inner tie rod. And as you can see on the bottom, it's got some serrations here that'll grab onto a smooth round piece. Even if there's a hex head, it'd grab to that. And then up here, it has some lighter serrations, but they are there on the U-bolt. And this does a good job. I've used this a couple times. It grips even smooth inner tie rods really well. It's pretty easy to install and crank down. I guess the only detractor is if there's not a lot of clearance in there. It can be a pain to position this just the right way to get it on and off. But once you find that magic way of putting it on, you get it cinched down and crank it on, you're good to go. Now what you would do, and I'll just come around here and slide this open. Just to show, we would take a ratchet, you'd put a 3/8 extension in there. You'd obviously probably want to use a long one or something long enough to get clearance. You'd put your ratchet on, and then you'd be able to turn this. Let me set it the right way. You'd actually be able to turn this around like that. That would break loose your inner tie rod. Now many times once you actually break them loose, you can take the tool off and then hand spin it off, hand spin the new one on. You're only using this for the final tightening and the first time you have to get it removed. So this little tool here was pretty cheap. I want to say it was under $20. And some of the larger kits that have different size things for the hex heads, they can range in price. But just this little under $20 tool seemed to work really well. It's a little more universal, and I was kind of doubting it. I was a little unsure the first time I used it that it was going to work right, and it actually did a really good job, and I was pretty impressed with it. So again, I've only used it a couple times, and in the case of a lot of these special tools, unless you're a shop doing that kind of work, it's not that often that you're going to be swapping out inner tie rods. So this is just a tool you're going to be pulling out, certainly a lot less than your standard ratchet and socket set. But when you need something like this, it's nice to have. I feel like this tool is not one of those one and done type of deals, and you know what those are if you've used them. Those are the tools you buy. You buy something like this, and you use it for one job, and by the time that job's over, the threads are ruined or the piece is stripped out. You got one shot, you did your job, and you throw the tool in the garbage. I don't view this as one of those. This has had a couple uses. It has no appearance of marring or damage to those serrations. It gripped them very well, and the threads look perfect. So I'm happy with it. You know, I didn't have any issues, and I feel that I'll be able to use this pretty good. And for the price, that makes it pretty handy. So this is Calvan Tools. The number is 946, and it's a low-profile inner tie rod tool. And definitely one I'd recommend if you're looking to get one of those, add it to your toolbox. Or if you've got an inner tie rod job coming up and you're wondering what to use, this is a pretty good cheap alternative. And this will probably work for you. Though there are other tools out there that might be more specific, especially if you've got like a hex head one. I only used this on some smooth ones that I did, and it worked really well for disassembly and reassembly. So anyway, that's pretty much it. There's not much more to say on this one. Hope you enjoyed these tool reviews. We'll keep them coming and give you some of those. I think they're pretty quick and easy to do. As you can tell, they're off the cuff. And we will write a little bit of companion stuff on our blog at vortex-garage.com, where again, we'll provide some links. Some of them may be affiliate links as we get that set up, but we'll write that on the blog as well. You can check that out and pick it up if you need it. All right. See, I'm walking away. I told you it was off the cuff. Again, thanks for joining. We'll catch you soon.